The metric system is superior to imperial weights and measures in every conceivable way. And the only reason why Americans hold on to their feet in inches is out of stubbornness and some sort of foolish pride. Right? Well, let's talk about that a bit, because things are a little more complicated.
Architectural Outcast.
Randy here from the Architectural Outcast. Proponents of the metric system will quickly point out it's based upon reason and science, as opposed to the archaic imperial system, which comes from the body, thumbs and feet. But first, we need to look at the origins of the metric system. In 1789, we got the French Revolution. The leaders of the revolution wanted to remove the monarchy's influence from every aspect of French society and culture, and a high priority on that list of influences to be removed: measurements, because they were based upon the king's body. The only part of the king's body that Robespierre and his buddies wanted to measure was his neck. And seeing how all of this was taking place smack dab in the middle of the Enlightenment, they wanted to replace the yard with the scientific meter, 1/10,000th the distance from the North Pole to the equator as measured running through Paris. Reason versus the body is a very old argument that goes all the way back to Plato, who claimed that the body with its related senses were deceptive and interfered with reason. Furthermore, our senses, as they were contaminated by the body, were unreliable when it came to understanding the world around us. During the Renaissance, we had the Paragon, a famous argument among artists as to which was the superior art form. Leonardo da Vinci is considered to have won the argument by claiming painting was the superior art because it was only dependent upon sight. And sight was the superior sense because it had the least contamination from the body. In the 20th century, the influential modernist architect Le Corbusier stated, "I exist in life only on the condition that I see. I am and I remain an impertinent visual. Everything is in the visual." These statements came straight out of modernist architectural theory. Le Corbusier and others claimed that modernism was based upon reason and science and was the active rejection of superstition, tradition, history, and the body. We hear echoes of these historic arguments in the modern promotion and defense of the metric system. Metric is based upon science and reason, which makes it more precise and dependable, whereas imperial is based upon the body, which makes it imprecise and undependable. Like I said at the beginning of this video, there's truth to this argument, particularly when it comes to measuring distance. The meter and all of its variants is a base 10 system. When it comes to the imperial system, yards to feet, base 3, feet to inches, base 12, inches to fractions of an inch, base 16. Dividing decimals is way easier than dividing fractions, particularly when you're on a job site trying to do the math with a carpenter's pencil on a 2x4. And the metric system is much better at the macro scale, millimeters. It allows for incredible precision in industrial processes, computers, aerospace, and such.
See, you said it. Your own words. The metric system is much better than the imperial system.
Hold your horses there, buddy boy. I said the metric system is more rational and has some distinct advantages. But that's not the end of the story. In my profession, architecture, things become way more complicated. When it comes to construction, actually building things, metric's advantage at the macro scale becomes pretty much irrelevant. Even if you have highly skilled craftsmen who take pride in their work and you always cut on the same side of the line, the best you can do is an 1/8 inch tolerance. The limitation is the tools. Most professional grade saws have a blade that's about 1/16 of an inch thick. Add on the 32nd on each side to account for blade wobble or handshake, and you're already at 1/8 of an inch. Layer on the human element, differences in the way people measure, mark, and cut. Now we're talking 1/4 inch tolerances. Buildings made out of metal with bolts and welding, now we're talking about 1/2 inch or larger tolerances. We're talking about tolerances that are larger than the centimeter. Metric's macro advantage is irrelevant at this point. If the macro is irrelevant at the scale of a building, what we're left with is convenience of use. And there's no doubt decimals are a lot easier to deal with than fractions. But we have to ask the question, what's the trade-off? What are we giving up for all this convenience? It turns out that we're giving up quite a bit for all this convenience. When you remove the human body from the measurement, you remove the human body from what you're measuring. And that's not a good idea when you're building spaces meant for the human body. When you design spaces for the human body, it's all about proportions, height, width, depth. And when it comes to proportions, the metric system is really good at basic ratios. 1:1, 1:2, 1:3, so on. And obviously it goes without saying, it's also really good at ratios with decimals. 1 to 1.1, 1 to 1.2, so forth, so on. Where the metric system struggles is when you have proportions and ratios based upon irrational numbers, like pi, or the golden ratio. It's at this point that some people are going to roll their eyes and go, here we go, all about the golden ratio, whatever. And I'm the first to admit the golden ratio isn't magic. But even if we limit our analysis to Western civilization, you will find the golden ratio everywhere, from farmhouses to Greek temples to Gothic cathedrals and everything in between. And there's a reason for this. Well, actually, there's 2 reasons for this. The first and most important reason, and this reason applies to every culture that has ever existed throughout time, but is particularly true for Western culture, that our very concept of beauty itself comes from the proportions of the human body. And guess what the proportions of the human body are based upon? The golden ratio. This leads us to the second reason, and where things get interesting. If the proportions of the human body are based upon the golden ratio, and you base your measurement system off of the human body, you automatically build the golden ratio into your measurement system. One of the reasons why you consistently find the golden ratio in Western architecture throughout time is because it's a natural consequence of using the imperial system and its other historic variants. Western concepts of beauty are based upon proportions of the human body. The architecture is built using a measurement system based upon the proportions of the human body. People like it. They want to build more of it. Ends up with a positive feedback loop. This all sounds fine and good in theory, right? Well, let me give an example. A little experiment y'all can run for yourselves. Use a sidewalk or a courtyard, any place you got permission, and draw 2 rows of lines. One row 3 feet apart, and the other row 1 meter apart. And then walk over each row of lines while trying not to step on any of the lines. Most people with a normal stride will quickly find a natural cadence where they can walk over the lines 3 feet apart without stepping on them. However, the people walking over the lines 1 meter apart will quickly notice that every so often they have to take a half step, a little hop, to readjust their cadence to avoid stepping on the lines. Now imagine you've just walked through the front door of a building and you're headed to the elevators. One building was laid out with feet and inches, and the other building was laid out using meters. you will have fewer breaks in your natural stride, those little half steps, in a space laid out in feet and inches than you will in a space laid out in meters. All of those breaks in our natural stride, those little half steps and hops, they add up. And they become one of the elements that go into us determining whether we like a space or if we find a space hostile. Now, can you design a space that avoids all those half steps and hops while using the metric system? Yeah, you can. But first, you have to care. Second, you have to put some thought into it. And most importantly, you're going to have to put quite a bit of effort into avoiding all those little hops and half steps. Whereas when you use the imperial system, limiting the breaks in somebody's stride is almost a natural consequence of using feet and inches. You have to work at it to mess this up. This gets into one of the most mysterious aspects of architecture, whether a space has soul or is soulless. How do you create that? Who the heck knows? But one thing we do know for sure, it's almost impossible to build a space that has soul that doesn't take into account the human body. You can create a space that has soul and takes into account the human body by using the metric system. But you're going to have to work at it because your measurement system is going to fight you every step of the way. Because the very reason the measurement system was created was to take the body out of the measurement system. Whereas using the imperial system, feet and inches, will automatically build the body's proportions into the proportions of the space you're trying to design, freeing up architects and designers to think about all the other things that go into creating a space that has soul. Does that mean that the imperial system is superior to the metric system? No. Both have their strengths and weaknesses. Context matters. If you're going to be designing something that requires precision, say like an engine for a rocket, I would recommend you use the metric system. But if you're going to do something that takes into account the human body, you really should consider feet and inches. This gets to the whole point of this video. The imperial versus metric debate is more than just an argument about how we measure things, divide up space. It's an argument about how we understand the world, because these two measuring systems are based upon very different philosophies that influence how we are capable of understanding the world. How do you choose to understand the world? At any rate, I hope I gave you all something to think about, and until next time, y'all be safe. If y'all are still here, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. While you're at it, why don't you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell. You can hear me yammer on about something else next time. And if you want to further support the channel, you can buy some merch.
Please like and subscribe. Please leave a comment.